Okay, I'm on. My apologies about last week. It was a software issue. The thing is, I recently switched to using Brave browser, and it turns out the YouTube page renders differently in Brave, and I wasn't able to get it to work off the webcam. But I figured that out, but I figured it out too late to make it worthwhile to try and do the stream last week. So we're doing it today. And I got on a few minutes early, mostly because I wanted to make sure there wouldn't be a problem. So we got people checking in from different places. Hello, everybody. Okay, getting more people coming in. Hello, everybody. Good to see you all here. We'll be starting in a few minutes. Hello, Jaya. How are you? Oh, Dinka? It's a beautiful day here today. Sunny, 10 degrees. Still a lot of snow on the ground, but that's going to melt now. Yeah, it's probably the sunlight that's making the picture lighter. The sun's coming in the window on my right. Okay. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhasa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhasa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhasa. Okay, so today we're going to do the live stream that should have happened last week. And again, my apologies. There was a software issue that screwed me up, and I didn't get it solved until it was too late to be worthwhile to try to get back on. So we're doing it this week. So this is the second in the series on the Bojjhanga, the factors of the the 7 factors of enlightenment or awakening. And we're doing Dhamma Vicaya, investigation of states or phenomena. Now, you'll recall from the initial talk 2 weeks ago that the Bojjhangas are a set of 7 factors that are to be balanced. There's sati in the middle, mindfulness in the middle, and then 2 groups of 3. 3 factors are energizing factors and 3 are tranquilizing factors. And a lot of the practice is keeping the harmonious balance between the 2 sides of the equation. So if one is lacking in energy, then one should focus on the energizing factors. And if one is overly tranquil, meaning feeling dull and sleepy, then one should concentrate on the energizing factors. So you try to bring them up together in a balanced way. So Dhamma Vicaya is one of the energizing factors. So it's particularly recommended as a counteraction to dullness of the mind. And it's equivalent to the factor vipaka, which occurs in the list of the iddhipadas, the path to power. It means investigation. The literal translation is investigation of dhammas, and dhammas being objects of consciousness or states. Pretty much everything can be called a dhamma. And in Abhidhamma, the word Dhamma has a technical meaning as being a single momentary object of consciousness. But here I think it's used in a broader, more general way to just mean events, objects, phenomena that arise in the mind, not necessarily at that fine grain as meant by Abhidhamma. Vicaya is investigation, which implies a special kind of looking at the object. One way I like to think of this faculty is in having an intelligent curiosity. You're taking an interest in objects that arise. So this is really closely related to the practice of vipassana, which is which is a meditation that we could call a disciplined introspection. The vipassana literally means clear seeing. And what we're trying to do with vipassana is to be clearly cognizant of each object, clearly aware of each object that arises to consciousness, and to know it precisely. And this kind of precision is very important. That it's not just a kind of vague awareness, but we're quite clear about each specific object. Dhamma Vicaya is the faculty of doing that, of taking the objects into consciousness with this kind of inquiring mind. What is this? And developing a precision about it. Now, it's important not to mistake exactly what is meant here. Dhamma Vicaya or Vimamsa or Vipassana does not entail thinking about an object or theorizing about it, contemplating it in that way. It means looking at it with this kind of clear, open, questioning mind that is basically trying to answer the question, what is this? And this is not a process of thinking about it. It's not a process of theorizing. If the mind is doing that, you've kind of gone into a meta level of analysis. You're not looking at the actual root of phenomena, which is what you should be trying to do. You know, this phenomena that's arising at this moment has these characteristics. And each phenomena that arises to mind will have a variety of characteristics. Some of them are unique to the object and that allow us to specify or categorize the object so that the object is either a sense impression or a thought or a memory or an emotional state. You know, there's a variety of objects that might arise to the mind, and this kind of particularizing of factors is the precision that's needed to parse out the reality of objects. But there are also characteristics that are common across the spectrum. And these are the three characteristics of anatta, dukkha, anicca. That is not self or emptiness or lack of a substantial essence, impermanence, and the imperfect or unsatisfying nature of objects, which will be present. These three factors will be present in every object of consciousness, with the exception of nibbana, but even nibbana is still empty. So Dhamma Vicaya energizes the mind in that it cuts through dullness, which can manifest as boredom, or apathy, or not caring, not taking an interest. Whereas Dhamma Vicaya is asking us to be involved in that sense, to notice clearly. And then it's when Dhamma Vicaya is strong, there's no boredom in the mind. The mind is engaged with the process. It takes an interest in the process. And this is more than any other factor, this is the factor that leads to wisdom, panya. Wisdom is understanding things according to reality, things as they actually are, not otherwise. Panya. And wisdom has different aspects. Two of the primary aspects of wisdom are the discriminating wisdom and the equalizing wisdom. And these correlate with the two ways I spoke of about noticing the characteristics of an object, the peculiar characteristics of a specific object, which is quite important to notice to develop that sharp, clear, specific noticing. That's the discriminating wisdom. So we can discriminate a sense impression from a thought, for example. And then the equalizing wisdom sees the underlying core three characteristics in every object. And both of these kinds of wisdom also balance each other. This is another balancing factor. I mean, we develop all kinds of wisdom with Dhamma Vicaya. So it is an energizing factor. So that means if you are experiencing in your meditation dullness or lethargy, boredom, then this may be a good antidote to start putting yourself in that frame of mind of inquiry, making a question of what is this, what's happening here. You know? And again, I would caution that this is not to be mistaken for any kind of analysis, philosophizing about objects. You should always be striving to get to cut through all the layers that we put upon experience. We have a raw experience in the mind of taking an object. And on top of that, we layer an emotional reaction. We layer our thinking about it, our comparison to memory of other similar occurrences, and so on. And in the end, the mind can build up such a big superstructure that we lose sight of the initial object. Whereas in the practice of vipassana and the development of the faculty of Dhamma Vicaya, one should be always seeking to get underneath all that structure that's built on top of the object and experience the momentary object of consciousness just as it is in its own nature, without being colored by our preferences, our likes and dislikes, our theories and ideas, and so forth. Just this object as it is here and now. And practice this way, the mind can get very quick and very sharp. And there can be an experience of genuine knowledge, genuine wisdom arising by being in contact directly with the raw material of experience. So I think that's about everything I have to say at the moment about that, and we'll go to the questions here. I see there's already some questions in the chat. Some Kuba Ajahns state that vipassana is something that arises with attainment of various stages of enlightenment and not a practice per se. What are your thoughts? And is vipassana practice a Burmese innovation? Is vipassana another name for Dhamma Vicaya? Okay, this is a broad range of questions examining the nature of vipassana. And I would agree that really when we talk about vipassana, we should think of it as a state of mind rather than a practice. And the practices that we call vipassana meditation are means to an end. They're methods for attaining this state of mind. And this state of mind is a clear, detached looking. With vipassana could be translated as clear seeing, clearly seeing the objects. Um, and however you get to that state of mind is secondary. And then there's a question about if it's a Burmese innovation, the practice. And to some degree, that is true. And vipassana meditation as a formal practice, as in the different Burmese schools like Mahasi and Goenka and so on, really these meditations in the form that we know them as formal practice, they don't really go back further than the 18th century. They're fairly recent innovations, which is not to say that Buddhists from the beginning weren't seeking to access this state of mind and finding ways to do it, but the formal disciplined techniques that we have today, that we know today, are actually historically fairly recent innovations. How does one keep the occasionally random and unexpected dukkha of one's sangha from becoming one's own dukkha in order to stop others' hindrances from diminishing your daily meditation practice? Yeah, this is actually a big problem, that to let yourself be overly influenced by others can really be a hindrance in your practice. You need to pay attention to your own states of mind and not get caught up with other people's states of mind, not being drawn into the drama, so to speak. Always remember the simple rule that you are responsible for your own mind states. So it doesn't matter what else is going on around you. It's your reaction to it that counts. And no, that can be a bit difficult to do, but it's important that you start to orient yourself inwards if you want to make progress in your practice, and not be so concerned with what other people are doing or not doing. Your next question. It seems that in the suttas, every previous Buddha was born in India's subcontinent. Could a bodhisattva in his last rebirth be reborn in other countries, or is it necessary for the Dhamma to start from India? Well, it is traditional stated in the commentaries. There's certain limitations to where a Buddha can be born, bodhisattva, I should say, where he can be born, and it is always in the Majjhima Padesa, that is the middle country, and that's defined as basically the Ganges Valley and surrounding territory. Even in previous world systems, there'll always be the equivalent of a Majjhima Padesa. And in fact, the 5 Buddhas in this world system, of which Gautama Buddha is the 4th, will all attain enlightenment sitting on the exact same spot of the earth, which is called the Bodhimanda, or the Buddhist, or the circle of awakening, we might say. What is mastery of jhana? Can one have mastery of first but not second jhana? Does mastery only come to a stream enter? No, it's actually a separate development. One can be a master of jhana and not a stream enter, or vice versa. Master of jhana means that one can um, enter and exit jhana at will. And you can decide, I'm going to sit in jhana for 20 minutes, or I'm going to sit in jhana for 2 hours, or whatever it might be. And it is possible to have a mastery of one or two or three jhanas, but the full masteries have all four jhanas, and then to be able to move from one jhana to the other at will. I think that is in the world a very rare development, that one has those levels of mastery. I think it's much more common for people to have some experience of jhana without having mastered it, that they can't always get into jhana. Sometimes they go into it, sometimes they don't. So they have some experience of jhana, but not mastery of it. Next question. Is reflecting on the Dhamma while in deep meditation, which gives rise to insight, it could be considered as a form of udacha? Well, it depends what you mean by reflecting on Dhamma. Um, there are meditations that we call anusatis, that are reflective meditations, where you're using disciplined thinking process, such as meditation on the Buddha, on the qualities of the Buddha. But if you're just allowing the mind to roam in kind of idle speculation and theorizing, then that's not really productive of anything in the meditation. Uh, uh, and so I would say generally no. I think the better use of the thinking faculty on Dhamma is subsequent to a meditation, to reflect on the occurrences of the meditation and try to make sense of them. Okay, this is a follow-up to a previous question about the vipassana, and the poster is asking that about jhana, whether jhana is necessary for uh, awakening, or, compared to the many of the schools now are teaching us bare insight, or uh, and as you say, that does kind of go against the suttas, but there is one mention in, I think it's in the Samyutta. It's just a very brief mention where the Buddha is talking about different ways beings uh, achieve awakening, and he mentions uh, bare insight without explaining it. It's one of these tantalizing passages in the suttas, which there's many, where the Buddha will say something very briefly, and it's not expanded or explained. So this gives free rein to uh, later commentators and the tradition to interpret it different ways. And it is true that by far, when the Buddha talks about paths to awakening, by far the most common way he speaks about it is to go through the jhanas, and then to develop wisdom upon emergence from the jhana. One cannot attain, one can't do vipassana or Dhamma Vicaya while in jhana. That's an incompatible mind state, because the mind is completely still. It can't do any kind of examination. But the mind is most pliable and susceptible to realizing wisdom immediately after emerging from jhana. Next one. As I understand correctly, the 7 factors of enlightenment are not sequential, which in turn lead us 1 to 3, 1 to 2 to 3, but rather one picks a factor as needed. Yeah, that would be more correct. They're not really sequential because they are in these 2 sets that balance against each other. So if one is only doing the energizing factors, the mind will become very restless and unsettled. And if one's only doing the tranquilizing factors, the mind will become dull. And it's mindfulness in the middle that keeps track of everything and allows you to see where you're weak or fallen behind, and you should then try and bring that side up. Good. A simple way to know is, in your meditation, if your meditation is not going well, if it's off, then you're either going to be dull and tired and sleepy, or you're going to be restless and agitated and unable to keep the mind still. Once universal metta is established, I'll continue to visualize the universe, or I can just focus on metta emanating outwards from my mind. There's not one correct method here. What the questioner is asking about is doing metta meditation as a general pervasion, spreading it outwards to wider and wider circles until you're extending metta, emanating metta to the entire universe, to infinity. And one can hold that contemplation there and take that as the object and just hold that for as long as you can. But there's a number of other ways you can go with that. One of the things you can do is to withdraw your attention from metta and pay attention only to the boundless space, and then you're into the formless abidings. Or as the example the questioner brought up was withdrawing your attention from the universe and space and just pay attention to the metta radiating. That would actually be a more unified object. So there are a number of ways you can go from that point. Dhamma Vicaya is not about theorizing, but in the discourses, the existence of Mara as a defilement is not theoretical. When I am seeing, investigating aversion, am I seeing Mara? Yeah, well, Mara has different aspects, which is actually clarified in the scriptures, that Mara can be that the entity Mara, the Dewa, or Mara can be used metaphorically as a representation of the defilements. So I think in the case of your hindrances and defilements, seeing those, calling those Mara, you see them arising, you say, I see you, Mara. Meaning you have penetrated them with your mind, so you're not fooled by them. That's one way of dispersing them. Can you do Dhamma Vicaya in first jhana? Thought and examination with taka and vichara are present. Yes and no. This thought for vipaka and vichara are present in first jhana, but ideally they shouldn't be used for thinking. They're used for striking and holding the object. But uh, because they're present, thought formation does not entirely cease. So there is still some thought formation. But if you are to start engaging in Dhamma Vicaya at that time, uh, you're not likely to be able to hold the jhana. The jhana requires primarily a stillness of mind, and Dhamma Vicaya is rather contrary to that, because you're taking note of the changeableness of objects. Okay, next one. Depression rooted in lost opportunities has made me uninterested in everything with no energy to do anything. How can I break free from this dark and hopeless mind state? The best thing to do to get out of depression is you need to get out of yourself. Um, Depression is in essence a very self-centered state of mind. One's obsessed with uh, your own miseries. The best thing you can do is to actively engage in some kind of service to others, and in general, anything that requires an amount of physical effort is better. Even if you don't, if you can't start there, even just going for walks or doing exercise will help. The one thing you don't want to do is just kind of sit around and stew in it. Uh, Venerable Ajahn, my girlfriend had an abortion years ago before I knew of Dhamma. Is there a practice I should undertake to repent? Um, well, that kamma has already been made. And it's not clear from your question how much responsibility you have for it. The main responsibility would be with the girlfriend who had the abortion. But if you counseled her or talked her into having it, then you would bear a significant amount of the kamma. We've all made heavy kammas in this life and previous lives. There's nothing we can do about it once it's done. It cannot be undone. The best thing you can do is to make an effort to perform only wholesome, positive kammas going forward. It'd be kind of false view to imagine that you can somehow undo past kammas by some kind of ritual act. Oh, Naomi, sitting in the airport. Hope you're comfortable. Got a nice cup of coffee. Ajahn, working full-time job Tuesday to Friday. How long should I meditate in the morning and evening? Should I meditate on longer of my days off? Well, that is a question that can't be answered specifically. It would depend on so many factors and your own motivation and effort. What I would say for daily practice, the most important thing is consistency. So to begin with, don't be over ambitious. Don't commit yourself to doing, like some people get very inspired and they say, I want to meditate 4 hours a day or something. And then they may do that for a few days, and then they miss a day, then they miss another day, and the whole thing falls apart. You develop a habit of meditating at a fixed time every day, and stick to it, after some time it becomes a really ingrained habit. And you can always have the option of extending that and doing more meditation on special days or when opportunity arises. But I think more important than length of time is consistency of commitment. Like, I'm going to meditate every day in the morning at 6 a.m. and in the evening at 6 p.m. And for half an hour or for whatever, and stick to it. That consistency is more important than length of time. If a successful practice of meditation is a form of ambition, can one get greedy and that disturb the mind? Yes, you can. This has been called spiritual materialism, and it's a danger to be watched out for, to be too sort of goal oriented. Like, you want to win a gold star. You get a bronze star for first jhana and a silver star for second jhana or whatever. Don't set yourself up that way, that you're being it's not a competition. You're not going to win the gold medal at the Olympics. You're trying to improve the mind, clarify the mind, and eventually to liberate the mind. It's best not to think too much in terms of goals and achievement. Really, progress in the meditation is not so much going someplace new, achieving or gaining. Is there a fixed vipaka, for example? Could a negative vipaka come after another negative vipaka, or is it positive then negative? No, it can come in any order, because a vipaka, for those who may not know, is a result of kamma. Vipakas will be experienced, but we can't know when, because it depends not just on the kamma, but on the coming together external factors that make it possible for the vipaka to manifest. So that there's no fixed order to it, because it depends on too many variables. Would you mind sharing which traditions have influenced your own practice? Well, first of all, the very first meditation tradition I got involved in was the Mahasi Sayadaw method, and I was pretty much exclusively practicing that for several years. Then I began to take an interest, a wider range of interest in Buddhist writings and practices. And I read pretty extensively Tibetan Buddhism material and some Zen material, and finally my heart really was connected to the Theravada approach, and eventually the Thai forest tradition. Okay, one last question. This is from one of the questioners. Thank you very much. One last question: is Dhamma Vicaya linked to Virya in any way? I'm thinking if there's no Virya, there's no power or energy to go very far in Dhamma Vicaya. Yeah, we're going to get to that, because Virya is another one of the enlightenment factors on the energizing side. So they all kind of help each other. So you're quite true. You're quite correct in thinking that if there's no Virya present, there'll be no strength behind the Dhamma Vicaya. It won't get very far. Okay, so I think that's looks like a good time to uh, call it for this evening, and we have next week we're going to continue with this series, and I don't think we'll have problem because you never can predict what might happen with internet and stuff. But I did solve that technical issue that kept me off last week. So I don't foresee problems in the future that way. Okay, I'll take my leave and thank you all for coming and hope to see you again.